Right, this is going to be another episode of my new League of Legends show, Thorin's Rotations. For this one, think of the affront that this is. No co-host. Fuck them all. They can all just sit back and I'll just make all the ad revenue, make all the fucking fame. Now it's just me and the players. Everyone's nightmare has come true. No, obviously, on certain topics, there doesn't have to be a co-host, believe it or not. Hate to say this, but sometimes a co-host can be an anchor around your neck if it's the wrong topic and the right person. So for this one, I'm flying solo, but I'll tell everyone straight up a spoiler for this episode, right? It's going to be talking about, this is like the polite way you do it if you're doing like a public lecture, like, what is the role of AD carry in the League of Legends meta game? But I'll give you the spoiler. It's probably just going to be two AD carry players complaining and just whining about all the other roles. So I don't know if I need a co-host for this one. I feel like these two guys just themselves could talk for 2 hours. I know, I did basically.
I don't need to watch anymore.
That's why I'm giving everyone up front that, so they know what they're getting into here. Listen, it's not going to be a very even, balanced discussion about how actually maybe jungle's the most important role. Or we're just going to basically complain about how ADCs either. Well, here's the interesting thing. The place to start here, Perkz, because obviously I've got Perkz here from G2 because Caps just couldn't play the role in the end. Sorry, that's not the official reason. They decided to switch back for some reason, and just blah, 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 whatever, something, spring, and then that makes it okay then. But whatever, they won, so we have to just believe them that it was all fine and that they were just really good. And then we have Upset here, who obviously just recently got a new support player, and, whatever, you won a few games. We'll see how it works out. So here's the first thing I want to ask though, Perkz, is if we'd have actually done this show like a month ago, which I first had the idea, was basically when it was at the height of when like if, for example, if you watched Asian League of Legends, like Aphelios was in every single fucking game ever in the LPL and LCK, basically. So at the time, most people actually were trying to spin it that AD carry was too powerful a role, mainly because, as far as I can tell, because of the champion Aphelios. Now, that is still played fairly often. It's obviously one of the main matchups in Europe still. But what do you think about that angle on it? That, like, obviously when you talk about the strength of a role or what the role is generally for the whole game, the power picks are going to skew it, right?
Honestly, I think there is so many perspectives on the role you can give. Like, for example, I would say that AD carry is a pretty strong role, and it's a must-have role. There's the reason why no one really plays mages, really, and other things, because they're just not as viable. I think that's honestly so much due to Aphelios and Senna release this year. Those two champs just single-handedly or dual-handedly change the whole way the bottom is being played, or the bottom drafts are being played, because you actually just can't lane against those champs with so many picks. That's why you're seeing picks that can lane against them in order to be in the game. And that's, I think, Aphelios is fun to play and he's very strong, but I think that by picking Aphelios, you automatically cannot pick let's say at least 10 AD carries now. You just can't pick them because you would just get so smashed on lane by Aphelios. So I think that's the downside to Aphelios.
What do you think, Upset?
Aphelios is definitely an interesting topic. I think in the start he was very, very broken, and people also didn't know how to play around him at all. So it added up to make him look like the most OP champ ever, and he was for sure the strongest AD. But there were still champs like Senna that was higher prio for G2 and Spring Split, I think, and Fnatic and us too. And I think the more people learned about Aphelios as well, the better they got at it, even though it kept getting nerfed, it was still very
people are still now getting better at it, right? Than they were let's say 2 months ago, because it's such a new champ. So,
well, I mastered him really fast, but maybe you are. No, I'm joking. For sure, I agree with this, but I also think people are learning a bit more now how to play against him, and the nerfs allow a lot more counterplay. So, for example, in the new patch, they want to nerf him a lot more, and I'm actually not sure if that's going in the right direction, because the thing about the AD carry role is that there's often 3 to 4 champs that dominate the meta really hard, because in the end they all have a similar role. Of course, there are some that are more safe and some that are more self-sufficient, but usually if you have an AD carry, he fulfills the needs of what an AD carry needs to fulfill, right? So if there's a strongest champ in this role, the champion diversity often gets hit a lot. So I'm not the biggest fan of nerfing Aphelios. I would rather see some more buffs on other AD carries, maybe some reworks on some outdated champs. So, but in general, I like the direction Riot was moving with the champ like Aphelios that takes some more mastery, because most of the time AD carry champs can be quite straightforward compared to other roles, especially.
Okay. What do you think about the current state of where Aphelios is now? Like, as I said, it was a bit more extreme maybe a month ago, but even so now, like one of the reasons, as far as I can tell, that people play Ezreal so much is just for that specific matchup, right?
Yeah, Ezreal as a champ, in theory, should be good against him, because Aphelios is quite immobile, and he can have a hard time auto-attacking if like the enemy comp is well built around kiting him, and Ezreal is like the perfect champ for this. So yeah, Aphelios right now is still very strong. I think people are like 10 times better at him than they were like in the past. But you can see he's not like first pick or ban at all. He often goes through the draft. Often he's picked like on second rotation. So yeah, I wouldn't say he's like too overpowered right now. But of course, if he one-shots your whole team, then it's easy to type 200 years and be like,
Sure.
wow, AD carry role is so OP, man.
Sure. Right, what about this then? We'll keep on the Aphelios topic for now and then we'll shift to another one. Right? Another thing I want to ask was this. As usual in League of Legends, it's not usually just one champion in isolation. It's like a mixture of that plus what the counters are, plus what the items are strong at the moment. So another thing that was making Aphelios, I think most people cry the most, is obviously like Death's Dance and then the fact you could have Conqueror as well. What do you think on that? Was that unfair? I mean, even to this day, it's still built on Ezreal, Aphelios, what else? Maybe Callista. It's still pretty common, right, for bot lane?
Do you want to answer?
Yeah, I think Death's Dance is just like, it's an item supposed to be for bruisers and
Yes.
it's not for the carries. So, I mean, I think that's like, I guess, the unfair part. The item is pretty annoying. I don't think it's necessarily that broken of an item. I don't know, it's just like sometimes annoying to do. Like, it's annoying that you can get both armor and MR from the one item, I guess, which is just broken stats, and you can't get them on AD carry that easily. And like, even like, what I've been doing recently is just buying like the component, like Aegis of the Legion, and just finish third item, and then finish Death's Dance, because I think it's the value you get is that the fact you can buy an item like that for 1.9 gold and get so much value from it is just so broken. Like, and you can still finish it into a real item afterwards. So I think that's like the really OP part about, I guess, that item. Yeah.
Yeah, the defensive items often can be very tricky for competitive, I think, when you can build them on a ranged champ, and that's why also in past metas, not as much right now, but when there was like a very strong AD carry. Yeah, or like just building your comp around protecting the AD carry in coordinated play can be like very dominant, because if the AD carry is unkillable and he does the most damage in the game, obviously like the game will break. That's why Lulu was so OP for so many seasons and had to get nerfed so many times, right? And it goes the same for defensive items, where if the AD carry can't die, which is supposed to be his weakness because he's suddenly a tank, with all the healing from Conqueror, and Aphelios obviously has like 1 million things built into his kit that even though he's immobile, he can still like one-shot you before you can kill him, or he can sustain, then the game feels very anti-fun to play. And I think obviously the best example for this was Arden Meta, right? But it also works for items. So yeah, definitely agree with Perkz. And I wrote down the Aegis trick, so you buy it first and then you complete your third item. Nice.
Because the problem I have with that is like here's the problem, right? I try to see all the roles from like everyone's perspective. So what I basically do is just listen to everyone's complaint and then figure out what cancels out or what doesn't make sense proportionally. So my problem is this, like, even though I really didn't enjoy watching when Aphelios was insanely strong and was picked every single game, especially not with these items, at the same time, I mean, this moves into the wider discussion of what ADC the role is, right? Because one of the problems I feel a lot of sympathy for ADC players is, where the fuck is your role compared to the other roles? Like, one of the biggest problems I see in the game right now is every role in the game has damage and fucking items and gold. So it's like, at that point in time, what is a role that's supposed to just farm up for 20 minutes and then do some damage in a late game team fight, which doesn't exist in League of Legends anymore? Now, the team fights are all the dragon fights, and like, if you've lost like 5 of those already, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, you can do anything you want at 45 minutes. You're not going to fucking 1v9 the game in 2020. So, like, I do feel like as a role, it's kind of lost. So, for example, when Aphelios was super strong and it was wrecking everyone, first of all, it's not like it did 1v9. You had to still set up your team around it. And then secondly, like, shouldn't ADCs be allowed something OP? Are they not allowed anything OP in this game? Maybe preaching to the choir.
I definitely. No, I like when AD carries are really strong in the meta. I think the thing about Aphelios is that it was like first time a champion that can do like so much, and it's a completely new thing. But the same was happening like for other roles at the same time when we look, for example, at like Season 9, Silas, Akali, Aurelia reworks, how OP they were. So it's just like a Season 10 champ, which is kind of like a meme because Riot obviously keeps like setting the bar higher and higher for the champions they design. And I wouldn't necessarily agree with the notion that like AD carry didn't have broken champs in the past. For example, I thought Xayah and Kai'Sa were very OP in the past. I mean, to be honest, I can go through like ever since I was challenger, at least I felt like they were always like very OP AD carries. But the thing is, there's usually only like a few, and the draft usually revolves a lot around bot lanes. So often these champs can get taken out. And Soliko is a whole different topic, right? Where the state of AD carry is. But in competitive, I never really felt like in any season that bot lane was like too weak or too little impact, except maybe like Season 9 Spring Split. I felt like Riot started like reworking these champs and giving them so much tools, I guess, to take out the AD carry or in general just carry the game from mid and top. I think that was when AD carry was the weakest while I was playing competitive at least.
What do you think, Perkz? What do you think about where the role fits in terms of the game?
I mean, the only thing is that I haven't really I played competitive for so long and I watched it for even longer, but I haven't really played AD carry for so long that I can give my first perspective point of view on the topic. Like for example, in Season 5, though from like speaking with Sven and like long time ago, he said that that's when AD carry felt the best because you could play like 6 different champs and they were all like pretty strong, like Corki, Lucian, Graves, Kog'Maw, Kalista, Savior, Tristana, like those champs basically, like you could have like 6-7 AD carries and they all like were good in certain positions. And then remembering then, it is true, you could actually play many different things in bot lane. And I think ever since, actually Season 6 I think was similar. I think Season 6 was similar to that still. I think you could play many things and like, Lucian, Kalista, Graves, like it was similar meta I think. No, not Graves, it was only, but you could play Corki and other stuff. So basically, Season 6 was similar. I think Season 6 summer, like Worlds, when mid lane became really, really broken, like with Ghost, was when I think AD carry started to become weaker. And then Season 7 was like the lethality meta. And obviously, at summer, it became really fucking broken again. And you could actually, I think Season 7 summer was probably when it was like most OP. It was because of Ardent as well, but you could basically play like, I mean, it was mostly because of Ardent, but you could play like 6-7 AD carries and they were all like really broken. And then I think Season 8 was also like AD carry was giga OP in Spring Split.
In Spring Split, yeah. But
you could play, but summer, end of summer, everything got reworked, and middle summer, and then everything like become much worse because the reworks were just too broken. And then Season 9, I still think AD carry was really strong. I think you just have like maybe a bit wrong like view on it because you had, I mean,
bad
if you look at it, you had really like bad top mid. I mean, not bad, but
exactly.
Like compared to let's say Worlds mid or compared to even Wundercups.
I didn't have
like,
caps in Wunder.
Yeah, it was like it was like a really big difference, right? So, but even then, like AD carry was pretty OP at MSI. I felt like bot lane in general, like Zarakan, I think Draven was pretty good. I think like you could play Lucian, Kai'Sa, like, and those are all really strong champs. And Varus.
So leading into Summer Split, I was pretty happy with the meta, but just when like Silas came out, Aurelia got reworked, Akali got reworked.
Aurelia got reworked. Oh, this
was like Season. Yeah, this was Season 8.
Season 8. Yeah, Season 8 summer.
Gauntlet.
Okay, then
Like,
and Urgot, Aatrox, Aurelia, Akali. Yeah, those were champs that got reworked. Yeah, I think Season 8 Worlds was probably when AD carry was actually like the weakest, I guess.
Yes.
Other Worlds. But just because the top mid champs were just way too broken. Like it was just you couldn't draft. But that's usually how it is, right? It's like you have certain champions that are very strong, and I think the drop off usually from like let's say 3 good AD carries to next ones is really big. Whereas I think even right now you can actually play 5-6 AD carries, and I don't think that AD carry is weak at all. But I think that it's really boring to play, and it's like really like it's really just like anti-fun, I would say, just because of how the meta is. And I personally much preferred playing it last year, where the meta was more about assassins and more about like flash AD carries that could actually make outplays. I think right now, if let's say one team, this is just an example from a previous game, but if one team has like Malphite Orianna and the other team doesn't have those two champs, it's like impossible to play AD carry. Like basically, it's really like heavily dependent on all the champs that you play against. And like I'm thinking back at whatever champion I picked that game, it would just be bad, just purely because of how draft was like set up, right? So I think that's something I didn't feel last year. I feel like last year, if I picked Xayah or Kai'Sa, no matter what comp enemy team had, I could play the game and I could have a lot of impact in the game. I think right now that is not possible. Like it's so draft dependent and it's like so like team comp dependent, like what comp fits well with you against enemy AD carry. And I think that's what all the game is about. It's like drafting good against enemy botlane, and then you play like that. And I think that takes the fun out of the game. I also think Aphelios is responsible for like for a lot of the murdering of the AD carries in the bot lane. But yeah, that's what I don't like about it this year.
Yeah, I mean, he has a point there, right, Upset, which is that even if AD carry can be a strong role, first of all, like your team has to set you up before you can even be in the game. You can't just be like you were on Schalke last year in the spring, like the lone person who can do something. Like you're never going to get a chance to. And then the other part is like the draft now specifically seems to target the bot lane in most. Like for example, as much as people were saying Aphelios was OP, I've seen some comps that have made that a nightmare for the person who's playing the Aphelios. I mean, wasn't that long ago that fucking what was his name? Comp from Vitality tried playing it into the Fnatic when they had like Syndra and stuff like that. That was a nightmare, mate.
Yeah, I experienced a nightmare too, where we blinded Aphelios and they had like Syndra set, Renekton, Lee Sin, and they came bot level 2 for 4 waves, and I was 2 levels down on the enemy Syndra suddenly. I mean, the only AD carry that I could think of right now, which is like, you can probably always pick it, is Ezreal, and he don't need a specific comp, but he can get like punished in lane by some AD carries. Which, yeah, so, no, it's definitely true. I think AD carry role is definitely the most dependent on the people around you. I mean, in laning phase, of course, you play with another person, a support that needs to set you up, and if you don't play well together, if both people aren't really good, then your laning phase will struggle, and in general, the game revolves right now a lot around bot lane, so it's really important you're on the same page, but you still only control the AD carry, and the AD carry is not the person that will start a fight. Yes. The AD carry can play well individually and try not to die and like get good trades in lane, but the most of the map movements and stuff are focused around the core of the map, right, with mid support jungle, so AD carry can definitely be exploited. Like if the enemy only has a good AD carry player and you have maybe a worse AD, it won't necessarily make the difference. Whereas if the enemy maybe has a lot better mid who can pressure the enemy mid a lot and like roam a lot and influence the whole map, then
well, that's how it
can swing the game a lot.
That's how it always has been, though. And
yeah, I mean, mid for sure has been like the...
And how it always will be, right? Because it makes sense. Mid is like center of the map, same with jungle. Like a role that can be like from here to here to here, like anywhere, you know? Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make...
And get highest XP as well in the game. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the only time where I felt like I don't really mind too much about my mid laner being worse than the enemy mid was Arden meta. Because in this meta, I felt like if you're actually better than the enemy AD and you like are just much better at all aspects, like team fighting, laning phase and stuff, you could actually take over the game. Because the enemy mid laner couldn't really do anything except maybe he plays Galio and roam spot a lot. But that's why I think maybe yeah, exactly. If you're Faker, then maybe you can carry. But even Faker couldn't carry versus Crown, right? When the enemy had Ruler and the others had Bang and Wolf. So yeah.
Isn't that also another? I mean, obviously, like you say, when there's another person in the lane, you have to look at that. Like at the moment, there are so many picks that you can play for support as well. So even it's not even like again you have like 4 picks that everyone plays. It's just if he plays A, I play B, he plays C. Like now the potential bot lane matchups you can set up. There's a million of them, right?
I mean, right now it goes all the way from like a Tahm-Kench to a Pantheon, and then there's Bard, there's Karma, there's Thresh, there's like literally everything. Yes. Sometimes the support just decides to take matters into his own hand and put his AD carry on the Senna, and he wants to farm now or something. So yeah, the support variety is absolutely huge, but Season 10, like when they introduced Senna Aphelios, it killed the meta, because I remember playing in the bootcamp, just like there was 1 week where the new champs weren't released yet, and I was having a blast, man. I was playing Lucian, I was playing Xayah, Kai'Sa, Ezreal, and I was really enjoying my life. And then Aphelios Senna, and from then, like, you can't pick a champ that's like not strong in lane versus these champs, because for some reason they also scale insanely well. So it's not like you can pick Kai'Sa and like just try to go even in lane and then outscale in Aphelios. He will do everything better than you. Yeah. So, or even Senna, like what can you do from Senna if you get hit from half the map? And she has also global ulti, and she wins lane, and she can heal a teammate,
and invisibility,
unclickable, and she has CC, and you're playing actually, like Lucian or something. So I think this really killed the variety in bot lane, because I felt like, I mean, I didn't play at Worlds, but it looked like teams could still pick Lucian sometimes. Like Kai'Sa, Xayah were the most dominant, but there was some Ezreal. You could probably play like some Sivir in some cases too. I felt like it was just much more balanced. Sure. So yeah, that's definitely a problem.
What do you think, Perkz?
I mean, I wanted to just say that basically, like I tried to like look at some, because I was a bit away this whole split. Basically, I tried to look at some LCK LPL recently, and I feel like every game is a different matchup. Like I can't even like learn too much, because every game is different matchup. And I mean, most of them supports, right? AD carries are similar, but supports, there is like so many picks that everyone is playing. And I guess you just have to find what you like the most and what you are most comfortable with. And I don't actually think there is like a clear best support as of right now, because everyone is figuring out what is actually best. And then at some point it will become clear at what is the meta, and then people will try to counter it. But I think it just like patches change and people are trying lots of different things, because no one is really sure like what can you play against the Aphelios is going to be useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What about like another classic thing that people have said over the last year or so about ADC is like that, listen, always as a role, obviously in team fights you were supposed to stay alive, that's part of your job, etc. But now it feels like the margin for error if your ADC it's too small. Like basically you are the guy who just cannot like misstep at one key point because there's a million people coming in on you with CC or fucking damage dealers. Isn't it way more difficult to sort of survive the team fight now?
Yeah, right. They keep surprising me with ideas they have for champions, like Seth, for example, or Volibear. They just like to create champs that have like very, very little counterplay, and you have to be like super aware of like what your role is in this team fight. And I think the more they're gonna keep like making new season 10 topside champions, or like it's, to be honest, it started season 8 gauntlet time around this time already, the more difficult it can be for AD carries. But like I said, if the AD carry actually is too tanky or he can't die, then the game is totally like doomed on the other side, right? Then it will just go back to Arden meta. So it's very difficult, I think, to balance AD carry, because there needs to be like a good balance of being able to carry a team fight, but also being able to be taken out if you do mistakes.
I mean, I'm gonna say, I
agree.
I think Rao just has to rework AD carries. Like, I mean, I'm gonna be real here. I mean, if you look at like ever since the new AD, every time new AD carry gets released, he's just dominant. Like Xayah got released season 7. She's been meta since then. Like, by the way, like she's been meta every single year. Let's say this is the first year actually. So this is the first year she's on meta, and it's only because Aphelios and Senna got released. Like, it's really the only reason she's on meta is because Aphelios and Senna got released. Same with Kai'Sa, she got released season 8, and she's been meta all the time up until this point, until Aphelios and Senna got released. So now they have to just basically, I don't know, rework Tristana, Sivir, blah blah blah, like all this like season 1 champs that are like complete garbage right now, and make them season 10 champs. And then AD carry will have like 6 champions that are season 10 champs, and you can play the game again. But now like it's just like Topset has like 20 champs that are season 10 champs, and what has like 2. So obviously the draft will be are revolved around those 2 instead of like ones that are being really like strong on the other side, because there's just too many of those.
But what I never understood is like, I feel like champs like Senna, Aphelios could have a good place in the game, but I just don't understand why they had to make them so fucking broken in laning phase as well. Because you literally can't play any, like when they, I mean right now it's like getting a bit different, but the whole season 10 meta is like so revolved around laning phase. Not like that you have to play laning as well, but like you have to pick a champ at least that is like really strong early. Like the AD carries that were played this year was like Aphelios, Senna, and then people like, start playing MF. Yeah, Varus as well, who's like very strong in lane. And then also Kalista, who's super strong in lane. And the only like outlier champ is Ezreal, but he's like pretty good
after
at
Conquer,
farming.
yeah. I mean, he's also actually like Conquer made Ezreal stronger in lane this year than last year when he had Kleptomancy. Like it's like actually the count was like indirect buff for him because you can actually trade with him in lane compared to last year where if you had a tank support versus tank support, Ezreal versus Kai'Sa, it was like unplayable. But now,
yeah, sorry.
No, but now it's just like Ezreal can actually win this lane really easy because of the Conqueror.
And also because he got reworked, right? He got his W completely changed, which makes like
last year, right?
Yeah, it was last year, but that's also why I think he's strong in lane because his W's changed. I mean, this was after season 8, so trading, you have like a lot more options in trades if you like want to WE somebody. And the ulti change was also huge that it does same damage to everyone that it hits instead of just the first target. I just think like if they want more champion diversity on bot lane, they would have to like. First of all, the dragons hurt it as well, because if you don't have like a really strong bot, you might have to give up the first 2 dragons, and then the 3rd dragon is already like, oof, are we going to give them this one? Sure. And then the 4th dragon, okay, let's just decide the game right here now. Everyone, it's a 5v5, let's hope we win this fight, and maybe we get the next dragon, and then see you again in 5 minutes. Or like, okay, they got soul, I guess, were we lucky? No, we got ocean soul, okay, I guess we go next.
I mean, this is a big topic, right? Because this topic basically is part of the issue as well. The old version of what an AD carry is, where certain matchups you can just think, right, well, if I ever get to a team fight in 30 minutes, that's when I'm going to do something. Like that. That's no longer the... I mean, the objective's going to be like a loose term here because it means something on the map, but you now have like a little quest list almost if you're the ADC, right? Like you can't just stay in lane all the time.
I also think that like in the past, this was the point I was trying to make, champs that are really strong early game, like Varus, and where you can play around the pressure, like I'm talking like about Honored Varus, for example. He has like a certain point where the other AD carry can just be a lot stronger if the Varus like did a mistake, and you're playing Kai'Sa into Varus.
Like so, Varus TV or something, or Varus Kai'Sa.
Varus Kai'Sa, exactly. Like you might be losing early, and they might get like early dragons, but who cares? And you could be like down in CS, but you will have your point in the game where you can impact. But now, if you pick like a scaling champ into Aphelios, he will still outscale you. So I don't like understand how right. Yeah, and they get the dragons too, and maybe the Herald if your support goes there for fun. So it's just like so bad like idea of balancing the game. They shifted it so hard into one side, and they killed like all diversity, I feel like, on bot lane with bringing in these champs that scale well, enter OP in lane, and also do things that no other champ could like dream of doing before. Like imagine pressing R and suddenly 5 people explode, or you have like a ulti that does like super much damage and shields like everyone in a huge radius. And also, by the way, your range is scaling for the entire game with AD, and you can build like lethality items which make you stronger early, but you don't even fall off because your passive gives you crit. It's just like I don't know what Riot is thinking in this way. Like compare this champ to like a fucking Caitlyn or something. Like Cait is supposed to be strong in lane, but Caitlyn gets stomped by Aphelios or Senna in like the past matches. Yeah, and she gets
there was a meta where Cait would be strong in lane and scale well, but now she's nothing.
It's like crazy, a fucking joke, man. Yeah.
But I think I wanted to touch on this, what you said, like about Drakes. I think that's actually my biggest. I spoke with several pro players about this actually, because I was just when I was on break, etc. Everyone said that the game is really dull because of that reason. I think Drakes ruined the game completely since last year. Like for example, let's say like last year, there was this stats one versus SKT. We won a game with giving up 5 dragons, and like people are like, oh, it's never been seen before. But you could actually play the map. Now it's like so fucking boring. Like forgive my language, but it's so fucking boring. The game is so trash. You go 5 people dragon, then you go 5 people middle lane, then you go 5 people herald, then you go 5 people mid, get 1 or 2 turrets, and then you base, and then you wait for next one. And it's like you can't play the map. You can't split push, and as much as like it was boring to play against assassins who one-shot you could still outplay them. You could still play them up. You could still like get better ways to teamfight, like different ways. Let's say even like what Rekas was really good at, for example, he was really good at losing lane, or let's say.
We get what you mean.
He was really good at playing losing lane matchups, and then like farming silence, knowing where to be on the map, like and getting stronger than M80 at some point. Now that playstyle is not viable right now, and I think anything that like solidify you as the, let's say, this is the least you can do on this role. Basically, was like be the better AD carry. Like that's like the most debatable role ever. But you could like be better at farming and be better at playing team fights and knowing where to be on the map. I think now it's like so straightforward that if you're not at the Drakes or at the Heralds, but instead of like let's say you're catching a wave or something or farming, you're actually trolling, because if enemy team gets those, you have really low chance of actually winning the game, even if you're getting farmed. So I think that's what's the biggest. That's honestly the most fascinating thing about botlane right now, is that it's like so straightforward, and if you don't get Drakes, you are griefing the game. And many people has tried to gear up Drakes. We have tried as well, but there is a stats, and I think stats with like team with like Drake Soul wins 90% of the time.
Of course. Last
year, team with like 4 dragons did not win 90% of the time. You could still win game. So I think well played to Riot. I know what they tried to do. They tried to make teams fight around Drake. That was what they wrote, but they just completely ruined the game with that. I think they need to rework Drake.
Also props to Riot for the RNG factor they put in. Like, I mean, because you can, like, I would like to see the statistics of somebody having Cloud Soul or somebody having Ocean Soul. But to be fair, like, if you actually like are winning the game and you get like all the dragons, like most of the time right now, also why this stat is so like far on one side of the spectrum is if you're winning the game, you're supposed to get like all the dragons, right? So the team that's winning will also get the dragons. So this also like changes the stat a bit, but I completely agree. The game is like very, very dependent on this right now, and the bot lane meta is obviously heavily influenced because if you get dragons, can depend a lot on your bot lane. And there's like sometimes maybe you can give up a Drake and try to get your top lane ahead through it, but
Herald get through it and maybe get next Drake, right? But
yeah, maybe like a Herald for Dragon, first Dragon, it can be like worth, right? But it's like
it's not reliable though. I don't know. It's flip.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, I mean, the only reason you would give like your top, for example, the gold, or like let the AD carry farm that he's stronger for the next Dragon fight. It's not like you can like keep trading and like win the game this way. So yeah, I definitely agree that this meta very dull as well. Yeah.
At least you get to play now, Upset. You'd be just fucking watching Nuke Duck in a side lane if it was a year ago, mate.
He's champion though.
Exactly. You at least get to play the game. There you go. You're not just part of the 3. You're not the 3 in the 1-3-1, mate.
It's 0-5-0 now.
Exactly. There you go. What about, like, another factor, when you guys were saying that before, I get the feeling a lot of players who were ADC players loved when it was the Xayah Kai'Sa meta, because, again, it was like classic ADC pool, like, small pool, but you know what all the matchups are going to be, you just practice them all. And for me, those champions, it's funny because they're obviously, like, vaguely more recent champions. I have no problems whatsoever with any of those champions, even when they were considered OP, because the identity is so strong. Like, for example, when Kai'Sa's really good, okay, anyone who's played League of Legends back in the day against Vayne knows you can't let certain champions go to certain points in the game and be fed. Okay, that's fine. Up until that point, it's not like it's dominating the whole game. The problem I have with the Aphelios angle is even when you do know what it does, it's just too much. It has way too much variety for a champion that was supposed to be in the past the most one-dimensional role of just ADC. Like, in the past, it was just about fucking auto-attacking. So, like, the kits these champions have are bonkers. I don't even know what as far as I can tell, if you want that to be in the game, you don't want it to be ADC anymore. You want it to be a different role. Like it's now like bot lane mage or something, like some hybrid mage comp. Because that's another thing, right? Isn't Aphelios also the reason why people now constantly keep working the mages in, because they're supposed to work against him?
Yeah,
I mean, that's like one. I mean, people play like Ziggs, right? Or like this, like the off-meta pick that people were playing, but the enemy team will have Aphelios and you will have a Ziggs. But if Aphelios has like no peel and he can get like kited, I guess, or outranged, it can be hard for him. And then there's Syndra, who's like, this champ is so crazy OP on mid lane that you can even play him bot lane, and she can, and you don't even have to be like super good at her, and she can still like really do a lot of damage in the game. But I don't even think that that's like necessarily a good thing for AD carry, that the mid champ is so OP that you can actually play her bot lane as well. And she can work into Aphelios, but I don't see it played like this in China at all, so maybe they don't know something we don't, or vice versa. But other than that, there's not really any like good mages, I feel like, that are viable into Aphelios, because he offers like way too much. And also, when I was thinking actually about past AD carry metas, I just feel like that game actually could be super great if Riot had like 2 years just complete break of the game, including servers, and they like rework all the old AD carries. And every AD carry is like OP, and they keep doing what they do on 2 topside champs and supports. Like they keep getting more broken anyways, and then it's great. But I can't imagine like a meeting of Riot where they pitch like Aphelios to the guy that designed Caitlyn. Like imagine this meeting.
Yes.
So
true.
He walks in and he says like, "So I'm thinking about making a long range AD carry, and he will have the same range as Caitlyn." Oh, okay. So he will definitely.
But he's also Jinx. He's also Varus. He's also Ashe. He's also Kai'Sa and Xayah.
And he also has a frozen mallet and like a million items.
He's a better Jinx, like his flamethrower.
It's
fucking ridiculous. And his Infernum, he has like a fucking root on his auto attack. Like, what the fuck, man? There's like, why do you give it? It's like an ulti for other champ, you know? I mean, what's funny is like we didn't even mention the shurikens yet because
you can't even count to them,
and the life steal and the red weapon. I mean, they keep nerfing it, and he sounds so OP, but right now I actually think he's like I have to like keep playing the AD carry side of the argument, of course, so they don't nerf him too much.
Sure.
But I think he has counterplay for sure. I think you just.
But he's very strong.
No, but like I said, like if they would make all AD carries like this, the game would be awesome. It would be like Dota 2 maybe. You know?
Because they can get one shot, but they can all be useful at least. You know, like right now you have like 2 of them.
I think that's actually part of the issue, by the way, Upset, is that the game now is actually more like Dota 2, if anyone has any experience of that game, where like every champion's supposed to be viable and there's a million different picks you can do and everyone has all these weird counter matchups, etc. Well, the problem in that scenario, though, is, like I say, eventually it just feels like ADC, the role, just won't exist like it used to. It won't be like 3 AD carry attack-based damage champions. It'll just be whatever makes up the comp at this point in time. Because there's another problem, right? They're never going back, as far as we can tell, to what happened in top and mid in past years. Like, those roles are always going to have a million picks. So another problem you have to factor in is if you buff any of the ADC champions, the real ADCs, they'll just be used fucking top lane or something, or like a mid lane. And we'll just go back to having some OP mid laner that's an ADC. So I don't even know if you can fix it in that way, Upset. It feels like, as much as you were half joking, I almost feel like you're right. I feel like you should almost just forget the role and just start making loads of viable champions in all the roles and just let people pick whatever the fuck they want.
It's so hard.
I would like that, but I'm sure Perkz would have a blast.
like Lucian, if he gets buffed, he would just be
mid,
Like,
but he's much better mid right now than bot.
Yeah, I mean, he's like 2 times better mid than bot. Yeah, exactly. Imagine if he gets buffed. Yeah. Like, it's like, I mean, I would love to be a Lucian mid main, you know, but he's just not viable bot lane anymore.
Yes, it's very true. I think they would have to like completely change the. I mean, the only reason like Aphelios and Senna are not being played on solo lanes is that they actually are mobile, but the mobile champs are actually the ones that are like fun and often allow for more variety in the bot lane meta. Yes. But if you buff them, then they will be picked mid. So to be honest,
I really like. I think I really like Kai'Sa. Like for example, her E, like it makes like not so OP in solo lane, but it still makes you good in bottom. Like that kind of skill, you know, that makes you like speed up a bit faster. You know, like let's say Aphelios Q. If it wasn't like the red Q, if it wasn't that imbalanced, you know, in late game, I think it would be a very balanced spell because it's actually just completely fine early game. I don't think Aphelios Q is broken in early game at all, and like the red one, and it makes him like a bit more mobile, and maybe he can dodge a skill shot or 2, right? But with champions like Lucian or Tristana or something, if you buff them for let's say bot, they will just be 2 times better on solo lanes because that's how their kits are, I think, and it's hard to. I don't know how to make them viable in bot lane more than in the other lanes. That's actually I have no idea actually.
I mean, the way you make a AD carry that's like super strong at all stages of the game viable is by making him like dependent on a different champ in your lane. So that's why when you have Aphelios, often you see like Braum, Tamka, and Thresh come out with it. That's why he like shows a bot. But it also isn't like great for the role if the role is so dependent on other people. But it's like always a trade-off, right? And if AD carries are like 2 OP, then you will see like Lulu and Karma suddenly come out and the Aphelios will like be super oppressive. But one interesting thing I saw like when I was looking at stats of Aphelios and stuff, he like especially I remember last split in playoffs in Spring Split, the Aphelios team actually like lost most of the games. So even though he is very broken, I think there is like counterplay. But I was talking like so much about how he's so OP.
Sure.
there's like many very good ADs, I think, that lost like much more games than they won on Aphelios. I think Kazi's like 0-6 or something.
0-7, yeah, but he was actually good at Aphelios, so it's like
he's
like,
not bad on Aphelios, yeah. And Reckless also lost like a lot of Aphelios games. Like he's very dominant, but I mean, this also, of course, like how many games of this Aphelios was like.
But I think it also depends like on meta as well, because let's say that right now mid-lane champions are just good against Aphelios, right? And let's say if assassins are viable, then Aphelios will be even more broken, because I think assassins are actually trash against Aphelios, right? I mean, I don't think they have enough to kill him, and he's like long range and he has AoE, so it's really hard. But let's say playing against Azir, Orianna, Syndra is very hard as Aphelios. Same with like kind of playing against TF. It's not easy for Aphelios, I think. It's like better than those. But if you're playing against TF, you're probably getting camped, and you're probably not having a good time in your lane. So I think mid meta and the jungle meta just influences even more the bottom meta how it is. Mm-hmm. On top of that, Aphelios is being like giga imbalanced in lane makes it really hard to
I mean, as an archetype,
I honestly have like no solution to bot lane right now. I'm just like I'm gonna enjoy the ride, and just like play what is best. But I don't have a solution. I don't. Good luck to ride.
What about this then? Actually, when I was doing a show with Licorice from Cloud9, right? This might tilt you just because I can imagine if you're an ADC player, this must be so annoying to hear. But he basically thinks, like, admittedly, top lane, like, in terms of strength of players, NA is not very good, and it's basically him and Someday and then a bunch of who gives a fuck else. But in their role, right, he genuinely feels like for a bunch of the top lane champions, it doesn't even matter what happens to them in lane. Their job basically is just don't die too many times, and you're always like, you can do stuff in the team fight no matter what. So if you think of some of the picks you were talking about, Upset, like fucking Volibear or Set or something, like, as long as now it doesn't even matter what he does in his lane. He's just there to fuck your game up if you're in the team fight. Like, good luck with that. With those champions all running at your face.
Yeah, I think drafting can be very dynamic, and if you like pick a top lane champ that like doesn't fit into your comp, but he can like win lane, it probably like isn't the way to go at all. Yeah. So, for example, like we were playing versus G, like just as an example, we played versus G2, right? And Perkz was playing Ashe without like a Tam catch or something, and we had like a Malphite Orianna, and the enemy had like Cannon. And Cannon was like winning lane. Like he was pressuring him at least, and I think they killed him with the gank. But in the end, like Malphite fits so well into our comp because we had like Senna, Orianna, Malphite that the enemy AD carry just couldn't play. So it was like incredibly hard for the enemy team to win the game. So I think top lane, I can definitely see how if the bot lane has like the OP champs and they have a comp that protects them, and you like try to play carry against it, the AD carry will just be too OP. Like a fat Aphelios will kill a fat Jace like every time basically. But
yes,
there can be a lot more top priority when these champs are removed, or if you like build a comp like around it where you can still like pick like a carry champ, and it will actually be able to carry the game if you have like a GP and maybe they don't have good engage and they're playing like Aphelios and you have like a good kite comp. I think the top lane champ can definitely influence it, and winning lane can still be important for top 2 for sure. Especially with Rift Herald still being like good with the plates as well.
I think people undervalue top lane actually. I think top lane is like, people say, I would usually agree top lane is probably the least impactful role, and I still think probably it is. But I think it is not that bad as people make it out to be. You just have to not play. You're actually, think of top lane as you're playing AD carry in top lane, but as a tank or something, or a useful champ, right? Any useful champ you can play. And you play in top lane that's good against enemy comp, you can make a lot of like good things, basically. And I think that's what is really important about the role, is like being. I don't think stomping lane, like it's not like the shy meta. Definitely not the shy meta. It's not like 4 or 5 OP champions that you have to master the matchups, like it was season 8 and a little bit season 9. I think now top lane is a lot more about like team play and just picking the best possible champion you can pick. I think there is like all the viable top lane champions. So I don't know what was the exact, I guess, argument about top, but it was just, you can pick a champ and be useful no matter what,
Yeah. What about, does the fact that the game is so much about also skirmishing throughout the whole game, does that also change ADC in that respect?
I think that's always same. I think AD carry is like always like the one who has to be in lane and farm. And like not... AD carry has points where he can move and help out his team, But most of the time, it's playing around waves for you, right? And you're not. If you're giving a wave and let's say you're moving somewhere to help someone and nothing happens and enemy carry gets like 6 millions extra, that's 200 gold. That's 200 gold closer to IE. Actually, like every single spike matters for AD carry compared to like let's say for mid, it doesn't matter if you get an amp tone or you don't have an amp tone, right? And for AD carry, if you have IE, let's say even BF for lane and the enemy AD doesn't, it's insta lane over. So I think that's the perfectionism is part of the AD carry role. And I don't think that will ever change. I actually like this about the role personally, but I don't think it's different to the other years.
Yeah, I think the core of it is still very similar. I think the only thing that influences like the AD carry meta, that there's like a lot of fighting, is that you want to have like a champ that can pressure lane, so your support in jungle can like take the favorable fights and help your mid laner and make sure that they can play together and create fights. So that's, I think, how it would influence the AD carry meta. But usually I'm just either like there's a slow push coming into my lane and I'm crying like, guys, please, I don't want to get dove. I guess I come to mid, let's chill
or we have a slow push, let's dive, or protect us pushing out. Like it's really simple, it's not that hard.
But the support has to like see like, oh shit, there's a slow push coming in. I guess I will go to mid here. I will make sure my mid can move and we don't get dove bot. But the AD carry is usually like the one like, okay, I'm chilling. Oh, okay, I'm slow pushing now. I guess I will say like, come dive bot, everyone. Let's have a party. So yeah, the AD carry role in its core is still very similar. Just that right now it's very dominated by a strong laning phase. I think, except when somebody picks Ezreal, then you can like be a bit more creative. It's your champion. You will still lose probably.
Why don't we in LEC see that much Varus overall? Because if people don't know, like in LPL, it's something mental, like 96% pick ban, which mainly ban, by the way. They almost never ever play it. And then in LCK, it plays loads more of the games. So is there a reason why this champion isn't spammed more in LCS and LEC?
I think there's like two big reasons. I mean, first of all, Varus got like nerfed 3 times in a row, and before it was like permabanned and picked, and now it is like kind of under the radar, where in other regions they still play it. But I always felt like in China and Korea, maybe the solo lanes were just like very skilled, or the top laners were like, they were known for much more great carry top laners, that Ashe and Varus were like always very big in the meta, I think, in these regions. Where in Europe, I think people were maybe more individualistic, because if you have to play the game a lot cleaner, I think, and more controlled when you play something like Varus and Ashe, because these champions from behind, when you play against something like, I don't know, in the past metas like Kai'Sa or Ezreal, it can be very hard. And I think in general, like the level of play in the past as well was a lot higher maybe in these regions, like the macro gameplay. So that's also a reason why I think these champs saw like a lot more play over the whole years than in EU and I guess NA. But the reason why Varus right now is not picked right now in Europe is because before it was banned and now it got like very nerfed. So I don't think we'll see too much play anymore. Yeah.
What do you think, Perkz? You used to have a pretty good Varus.
I mean, I actually did, like, it's still being played in LPL and LCK. Like,
it's almost never played in LPL, they just ban it. In LCK, they play it, like, I'd say, like a decent amount of the time.
I mean, similar as to what Afset said, I think it's like, I like to play Varus. Like to. I don't think it's that great right now. I think Varus is a good champ because it allows you, it's basically like an AD carry, like a mid lane, and it has engage too. And that's kind of what fits me as a player. I like to engage and be the one who is leading fights and pulling the trigger, I guess. And Varus allows you to do it really well. And I think like better than Ashe, because like Varus could actually like solo kill someone. Like with Varus, if you ult someone, you could solo kill that person, and you could do much more damage than in Ashe. That's why I always liked Varus over Ashe. I think Ashe is just much more of a utility AD carry. She's really like, you play her. I liked her a bit until I played the game against OG. So I was playing her a bit in streams and was like, you're the annoying guy. You know, use this W, you like get one auto, run back, you know, kite a bit, throw some E's, maybe some ults, and you're like useful that way. But Varus is like just much more scary when he's strong. I never liked Vitality Varus. I think he's a bit of he's not like my type of champ. I think he's like a bit too far back. But I really like the on-hit Varus. I think that guy was fun. I wish he's meta sometime soon. I don't know how good he is right now. I think the 50 damage on E is quite sad, actually. You actually tickle someone with your E, so I don't think I'll be playing Varus right now, probably, with that nerf, the last one. But I like the champ in general. I think it always is. It was so strong for so long time, and I think it's good to have him, though. I actually think it's good to have this champ because he's usually historically known for getting outscaled, but gives you a perspective on playing early game and how to snowball, and that was good to have.
I think he was a very good example of a champ that was like basically Aphelios in early game, but then he actually would get outscaled. So I really agree.
Yes.
And the problem also with balancing him was now that they nerfed him actually, like the skills, like even if you play Honored Varus with like Rage Split and stuff, you still like put maybe 3 points in E for lane poke, or like before you could even put some points in Q. But because they nerfed Lethality Varus so hard, and Varus was already not like in a great state necessarily, like he wasn't picked like over MF or something like that in Europe at least. They kind of gutted him now because they had to do something about Lethality Varus, but now they also hurt Honored Varus a lot. But I don't like the champ anyway, so I'm happy.
Sure. Upset, what about this? So when we referenced like last year when you were on Schalke, for example, like obviously I gave an extreme characterization of it, but it did feel like that was half your games, mate. It's like, right, am I actually going to get to play League of Legends today? No, not today. Well, maybe next week. And then you just have to look at the schedule and see what comp you get in the next match. Like ADC last year, yeah, it had to be unlocked, right? You don't just start the game and have the chance to 1v9, right?
Well, in Spring Split, I still felt like the Akali and Silas and these champs were like still very strong. So I felt like if there was a big mid difference, that it was incredibly hard to play. So I think I missed play of the split. We went like 9-9. But in summer, once these champs got like more well balanced, I actually felt like AD Carry was in a pretty nice spot. We managed to get third place, and I think the only games in playoffs we lost was West Fnatic. Which was just a lot better team. So I definitely felt like we had a lot more agency from bot lane, and actually felt like I could carry the game in this matter.
How does that compare to now?
To a certain extent. Right now, well, these champs were like way more individualistic. So I remember playing like Lucian in playoffs and like really smurfing and killing people in lane and just getting like big leads for myself, or like playing Kai'Sa and being able to play like teamfights very well. But right now it seems to be much more about teamfight comms, and this is also about the Dragon, and like having a good idea of what everyone should do in the comp, and make sure you play well around your AD carry, and then the AD carry obviously has to not drop the ball too and like flash in suddenly and just die or get caught. But before, I felt like, okay, my tank is trolling maybe, he's going in way too deep and he just is getting free hit, but I'm playing Kai'Sa, so maybe I can look to like make something out of the situation, ulti in, take out one guy, like maybe pop a Zonias or something. But right now, like if my tank is inting and I'm playing Aphelios, I'm like, okay, I guess I will not hit because the enemy tank will go on me when he's supposed to, and we go next, I guess. So
I think I agree with that. Yeah.
That's very different. But AD carry is like can still carry. It's just like way different and less individualistic, but much more around your team being strong at playing around AD carry.
I think that's actually the thing that confuses people. It's like the role is, like, here's the best way to describe it. The role is really strong. It's just that you also need the rest of your team to make the role actually work.
They're all stronger than last year, Like the role is for sure stronger than last year.
I mean, put it this way, like,
yeah, go on.
No, everything I said also only goes to a certain extent. Like, even if it's Kai'Sa Ezreal meta, or like Kai'Sa Xayah Ezreal Lucian, doesn't mean I can carry the game if there's still like a huge gap in other roles, right? It's always a certain extent, but right now I feel like the gap is a lot smaller because the AD carries are immobile, but they're very OP, but your team needs to play around them like a cotton.
Like, let's just say, I think the easiest way to explain what you're basically saying is that I think that right now, a verse AD carry is less likely to be noticed than last year. I think last year you could clearly see like a difference in someone playing like Xayah, Kai'Sa, Lucian. Then right now, seeing someone play Senna, Aphelios, or
Kalista or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, Kalista is honestly like
Kalista is
was hard. Yeah. I think let's say Ezreal. Like, I mean, everyone is good at Ezreal now.
No.
I mean,
not everyone's good.
Okay, maybe not everyone, but like that's cool. Let's say Ashe or something. I don't know. Like,
no, I totally agree. Like Aphelios and Senna, like if you're really fat and your team plays well, then he will still carry the fight. He doesn't have to do too much. I think skill expression is way lower, especially on champ like Senna. I've seen a lot of boosted Aphelios in my day, but it's still Aphelios compared to Kai'Sa in like a team fight.
Yeah,
Aphelios
I mean, honestly, I think like Kai'Sa maybe wasn't like. I think Kai'Sa probably last year was the most noob friendly out of all those. I feel like Lucian, Xayah, and Ezreal were harder to be really good at than Kai'Sa. I think Kai'Sa was just like, I mean, she was just very overloaded for that meta, right? Like, let's be real, she was very strong.
Especially because the topside champs could
exactly. A
good Lucian, like I can see like so many small things about Lucian that people do differently, like in lane to like every stage of the game. Like when the difference was like so much bigger. The skill expression.
For sure, yeah.
What do you think is what is the best hard carry ADC champion now? Ezreal, maybe? Seems like it's the one that people lose on, but still have a really good game on half the time.
You mean like individually?
The hard carry.
Yeah.
Like,
as in, like the best one if you were like behind in a game or you had to like try and 1v9 the game. Obviously, it's a ridiculous hyperbole now, but the ones that you can. Aphelios still.
Yeah, it's still Aphelios.
Aphelios, yeah.
But the champ that can like carry the most on its own, where's your team like making mistakes around how to team fight, would be Ezreal. Yeah. So in that sense, Ezreal, is the strongest hard carry champ. But if you really want to 1v9, you want a champ with the most tools to like come back. Because Ezreal from behind this is no bueno. He doesn't scale compared to an Aphelios.
Like honestly, if I'm Aphelios and my team is losing and I get the 3 items, I'm already like confident we can win. You know, like with Ezreal, it's not like that. I think that's the best point about Aphelios is like
except you have a little Yuumi on your head, then.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. See, they're bringing the cat back tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, I'm so
only one patch.
Like,
only one patch, by the way.
The meta was so nice.
Yeah, only one patch.
I have this theory that like somebody in the balance team is like a huge Yuumi main and he like lost his fucking diamond promos because he has to play Lulu now or something. And yeah, it's like I don't know, like who was missing Yuumi? Like I want to see the messages of like Yuumi mains complain. I
think
can't believe
like
that they
absolutely no one like from pro play wants to see Yuumi. Like no one. But yeah,
like not even me. Like I like AD carry. Like I like when AD carry has like so many like buffs and shields and stuff. But Yuumi is like.
It's unfair.
The way you have to play the game is so like boring. Like you're either like so useless because you get perma-dove, or you're just so
brainedly OP. Yeah.
Yes. And I think Yuumi
this is like go on.
I think Yuumi is actually like a good example of like bad game balancing because she's like so OP, or she's like completely useless. There's like no in between, and the skill expression is like. Obviously, like anyone can play Yuumi. I can play Yuumi with one hand, I'm pretty sure, to like a pretty good level. And that they make a champ like this is already crazy, but that the champ is like so on 2 sides of the spectrum and it's so OP and no counterplay. If you have a fat Ezreal and the Yuumi is fat, and you have her on top, it's like you don't even have any chance to do anything against it. I really dislike this type of like champion design. Yeah.
Is it an issue? There's a wider abstract question here, but it's up to you guys how you want to answer it. Is there in general in League too much damage in the game from just all roles? Because remember, that was obviously the original point of attack damage carriers. Like, this is the guy that has to like do the sustained damage in the team fight, constant output, etc. Now it feels like the game again is a different game.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I don't mind there's low damage. I think that's. I would have to think about it a lot. I mean, I did watch some like recent VODs from season 7, and I think there was like little damage. Like there was this Iron of the Solari that was basically like tanking like 5k damage in one team fight. Yeah. So like the meta is for sure worse than let's say right now, where everything gets one shot. And I just think what you mentioned before about Drakes and the way it shaped the meta. I think that's honestly the worst thing. I think League of Legends would be in great state without that. Like personally.
I also like the game a lot more if there's like a lot of damage. Like if I could choose between like champs having like too much damage or being too tanky, I would much rather choose too much damage, because it feels kind of like, I mean, very unskilled if like a tank is ahead and he's Dr. Mundo like in the past, for example, and he's just unkillable. Whereas maybe if like a topside champ, if he's not like too season 9 or season 10, you still have like ways to outplay him, and you like yes, it's just about skill expression for me mostly. Like if a tank is OP and it's the meta and he's really fat, then it's like just nothing you can do because he's unkillable. But maybe you can avoid the damage if you like dodge something or put a stopwatch at the perfect timing or something like this.
What about as in terms of as an actual lane? Is there too much action in the bot lane? Is there too many ganks? Would you actually prefer like an older world where, you know, you see the occasional couple of times, but aside from that, you just farm up for 20 minutes?
No, I like it. There's no more farming for late game. Wise man once said.
Game starts so
I enjoy when. Yeah, exactly. I enjoy it this way much more than, for example, like I remember season 5 at some point. It's like double TP meta, and hopefully no one does anything bot. Otherwise, like you will get double TP'd on from behind. I like it much more when the game is like more volatile, and it's much more about like small interactions all the time that will decide the result of the game, instead of like just, otherwise the game can get a bit boring, I think. I like it much more this way than just farming for late, like both, and just have a mutual agreement that we will meet each other in 30 minutes.
What do you think, Perkz?
I mean, I think so too. I mean, I've never played Braum Town meta, but I played like a few matchups last year, I guess, of Braum Town, where Braum and Town were the most OP champs from season 5 to season 8. Until like basically Worlds of the Year, and even that they were strong. So I think that's honestly was really boring. I think now, I mean, season 9, as I mentioned, was really perfect about that. I think I didn't appreciate enough like how good the meta was, because you had like so many different ways of like playing like bottom together, and even like champs like Pike, Rakan, you know. Istar, Leona, Nautilus, these champs, Morgana was meta, like all these champs. It was really fun to play lane between those champs. I think right now I really like the fighting and everything around bot. I just don't like the AD meta, which makes it I think more boring as well, because sometimes the lanes are really decided on, like let's say even like right now if you play against Kalista, like you know Kalista will no matter what win every early levels. Like it's not even like there's just no counterplay involved in that, right? As before.
Yeah, your support matchup would have to be terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think like as of previous years, I think even like in specific lanes, there was like a way to, let's say, even in Xayah Kai'Sa matchups, there was like way for you to get push if you learn how to like play something a bit differently, you know. And I could see, let's say, for example, when I played against Uzi and Ming, the way that they played lane together was like different to other bot lanes, and would sometimes like them playing together as one would make you be able to win a lane that, let's say, in Europe you would not win, right? And I think with Kalista that's out, and like it's so boring to play against Senna and Aphelios as well, because they're just so long range and unskilled on lane.
Yeah, I mean, Hail of Blades made Kalista very one-dimensional to play against in lane. Because before, like in Fervor meta, for example, when it was like Lucian Kalista, a good Lucian can like time his Q that she can't dodge it. Yeah. Maybe short dash her Q and like get some good trades in. But right now, like even if you hit your Q, you get 3 spears in your brain, and she even maxes Q. And if she hits your Q, okay, trade's just over, I guess. And her W got buffed as well for some reasons. So now if they have like Thresh Kalista and you have like anything, you will probably not be able to contest even if you play like better than the enemy bot.
Has the fact that there's so many champions that are viable, and crucially, like if you go and look at the drafts at the moment, like in LEC, dude, like the blue side first picks the ADC like pretty much every game right now. Like it just defines the whole draft. Does it actually make it harder to play the game as an ADC player? Like, do you have to just know like way more combinations, way more possible comps you can have? Can you still just practice 1 or 2 champions and hope your coach builds the draft around that?
Well, I mean, it's not even like that you can play other champs. But for example, I ran into some scenarios in stage games where in scrims, like the champs are open and I get to play them. And then on stage, I was red side and they banned like 3 ADs. they first picked one, and I was left playing like MF suddenly, or like Ash or something. And it's it can definitely not be great for like drafting if the champion pool that's like really good in the meta is like quite small, right? So draft is very important right now for bot lane, for sure. I would agree with that. And I also think maybe counterpicking support can be a bit too broken, because like the AD carry champ pool, there's like not too many combinations you can play and blind. So most of the time what I see teams do is like they just have to blind pick Nautilus, because if you blind pick like Braum, he can get abused by too much. Like there's just too many champs that can get abused, and the blind picks for the supports are too low, but the counter pick range is, because the counter pick range is like so big, so you will often see Thresh buns, so they can't blind Thresh. Then we'll blind out, and it can get like exposed quite easily. So I think there's the meta right now, because it's so little champions, it can sometimes create two very weird drafts or like unpracticed scenarios as well. Yeah. But I was actually, I was just thinking about, because Perkz like only played AD carry in season 9, and he's like talking about that it was like his favorite meta. But actually, if I think like back to the seasons, I felt like every season I preferred over this one with the champions, because I remember like season 7.
Like
I
even
was
season 7 spring, like when there was like when people made the memes AD carry in season 7, you know, the lethality. I think even then it was like more fun just because he had a mini game. Like playing lethality Jhin was. I think lethality Jhin was really fun. I offered it a lot, like shit tons of lethality Jhin. That was fucking fun. But right now, I don't know, it's just like you can talk about it more. I don't know what is it about it. It's just so boring.
Like actually, I remember like season 7. I was just looking at like the champions I was playing, and I think season 7 spring, it was like very dominated with Jhin, Varus, Poke meta, and like there was like Zyra was the most dominant, and MF, and there was like Malzahar and stuff in season 7 spring. So this was like probably my least favorite meta, because I still felt like there was a difference between like a very good Jhin and a very bad Jhin, or like a very good Varus, but the skill expression was less. But I think after this, like all the coming splits, I enjoyed like a lot, because season 7 summer, I was playing like a lot of Xayah, I was playing like a lot of Tristana, like Xayah just got released. Tristana was really good. I was playing Kog'Maw in Twitch super much, which I like enjoyed a lot. The meta was just much more forgiving in lane, because it was the Relic Shield meta, I think, and also I don't remember how it's called, not Bloodline. It was like the mastery that when
Warlords,
you hit it,
no?
Yeah, Warlords, yes.
Yeah. That one is really good, yeah. Like I think actually that is also a bigger reason why AD carry is like so like Fleet Footwork just sucks for so long, like for so fucking long. Fleet sucks. I think that makes
like you can't even pick a scaling with Fleet, because you will anyway still get outscaled by Aphelios. So I think that's wouldn't even be the way to fix it, right? But just this part I really enjoyed. Like when I look at the champs I was playing, it was a great meta, I think, because even though it was kind of farm for late meta, when I was playing Kog'Maw against the Twitch, it was like very different than when Twitch was when I was playing Twitch versus Kog'Maw. I felt there was still a lot of skill expression, and it all came to a wonderful conclusion this season with Arden meta being introduced when I was playing promotion tournament, and we luckily found out in the last best of 5 to pick it. And then when I look at season 8 in spring split, this might actually have been like, I'm not sure why, but it felt like AD carry was super OP in this split, because Tristana was mega OP. Yes. It was like what Reckless played all the time, and he like carried the finals really hard with it. And then but there was
as well, Xayah, Sivir, and Varus were all giga broken.
And Kai'Sa came out too, but
Kai'Sa came out at MSI.
Yes,
but
and at MSI,
it didn't.
I think at MSI, Kai'Sa fell kind of into the Aphelios category, because he was just way overtuned. But the more they nerfed her, I think now, then, like later on in season summer, she was still very strong, but she was like not SOP anymore at Worlds, but she was still very, very good. But that was like the spring meta, and then when I think about season 8 summer, was like when it was actually a mage meta. Like I kind of got like a bit triggered looking back at it when people were like always talking about mage meta in season 9 and stuff, because even if you look like at Perkz, all his most played are like AD carries, and then there's like Yasuo, and all the other mages were like one game.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you would have maybe picked it at like the World Championship if you had the choice to pick like a Xayah or Kai'Sa, for example, which you obviously like
The
then
roles?
later on, season 9
last year?
now. Yeah, season
Yeah, I
9.
mean, I would have never picked the more Xayah Kai'Sa. It was Xayah Kai'Sa were so much better.
Exactly, but this season 8 summer was actually like you could play Vladimir bot, you could play Ryze bot, you could
That
play
was fun,
Swain
actually,
bot, you could play
Yeah.
Morgana bot, you could play Ziggs bot, you could
Yes.
play. I mean, some
Heimer.
people played Heimerdinger, yes, but you could still play
Actually,
some
that was
AD
really
carries.
fun. I think that was really fun.
Yeah,
You could
this
play
was
Lucian,
like.
you could play Jhin, Kai'Sa.
I
Still
mean,
play shit, I guess.
yeah, I mean, for playoffs, like when the split went on, the mages, I think the AD carries like started getting buffed because we were all crying, and then the meta like turned much more into AD carry meta. But this was still a very fun AD carry meta. And then season 9 Perkz already talked about a lot, right, with the Xayah Kai'Sa. But I wouldn't actually mind. I mean, maybe now I would mind because there's mid laners coming to my lane to play like a lot more champions, like the mage style as well. Because I felt like I was getting quite like decent at these champions.
You were not bad, I remember. At Ryze, you were not bad.
Yeah, I play, and it gave me like a completely new perspective. But if they would want to do this again, it would obviously be better to not be in the split. But if they could find this sweet spot again of being able to play like AD carries but mages too, and both are very good, that would be like very optimal. But right now with the dragons, like you're definitely not playing Ryze bot lane or Vladimir bot lane. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Or like I imagine playing Ryze into Aphelios. But yeah, that's just like looking back at like all the different metas for me. I felt like am now again where I started playing with like it was like Jhin, Varus, like these are mobile champs that are like very strong in lane and very lane dominant. But they still felt like a lot. The meta still felt a lot nicer to play. But yeah, definitely season 7 summer was my favorite meta with Kog'Maw Twitch actually being playable and Ardent. Oof.
But it's actually, I think one more mind-boggling thing is that when new champs come into mid and top, they get balanced around the meta, and they get nerfed, and they become like, as of right now, like neither Sylas or Kali or all the champs are not broken, and they will still maybe be playable at some point if Drakes were not broken. I really think so. I think we would see much more assassins if the Drakes were not so OP. But as of Aphelios and Senna, they got so many nerfs since release. Like actually, if you look at patch notes, they got so many nerfs. And Senna is coming back into meta, right? Like really fast. And I feel it's still most OP on lane. So
I don't know.
It's like it's just so hard to fix that. Like how can that happen, right? How can that be that two champs can just change completely dynamic of the lane? Like it's just completely. It's not even like a little bit. You can't pick 10 champs because of one. And I don't know. It's just crazy, honestly. Like it just fucking sucks to play only like 2 champs, 3. You can
definitely.
say what you want to say, yeah.
Yeah, I also don't know why they suddenly made Senna like be good again at farming. This was like I also don't know who asked for this. That suddenly Senna's like the champ again where you can farm, because they just decided like I guess this like support Senna with like carry was not fun enough. Now they just make it that Senna can like farm again, and she's just like basically as good as before. It feels like, and she's like, this is really a champ that's like very anti-fun, I think, and very. I mean, it's obviously skill expression, but the spectrum is like again a lot smaller on a champ like Senna.
Yeah, that's an example of a champ. Like, listen, the Aphelios one, like, I can actually blame myself whenever I've played that champion, just like, I didn't know what it did, basically, and I never put the time in, but I've done it now, so fair enough, whatever. The problem with the Senna example is it's either completely useless, or you just like, well, this is fun, I'm about fucking 4 screens away and I can't do anything. Like, what am I supposed to do right now in the lane? Like, I don't know what the balance for that champion could be. They just basically can only be really good, as far as I can tell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
no
like,
balance.
It would be great champion design if like all champs were like this, but they're sadly not. So they have.
I think they have to remove heal from like. Why does she have a Q that's like twice the range of Lucian, and it can pro glacial long because she can, because that's what her champ is, and she also heals. Like she has like 3 things in like one champ that makes her like only one spell enough is like too much to compare. Like every spell of her is like broken, so you just have to like remove half of the things from her, and if you leave her passive on, she would still be good. Like basically, And they removed her passive like with the souls, and now you feel like you get like way more souls. So I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't have too much experience with her as well to talk about it, but it's stupid, champ. Like,
Yeah, it's also very, like, I don't know, if Senna auto-Qs you in lane and you play something like Ashe, I don't know exactly what you're supposed to do. Because she heals herself, like, and she heals teammates too with it. It's just, I don't know. I don't know who's designing these champs. I would like to know.
This is LS, and you're on Thorin's YouTube channel, so cut the Western shit.
This video was kindly supported by Jack Hanna, Dean Tanglis, Soliko, Bobby, Spencer Green, Istar, WhattaThings, Xinged, Alexander Rao, Tobias Bernasconi, JDubs, the Puyallup Tribe, Jensen Goh, and of course, a special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you'd like to ask a question in one of those monthly video AMAs I do. Do you want teasers? See who the upcoming guests are for my work? Maybe you want to be part of one of those donator discussions with me each month. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today by the description box link to Patreon below.